Minor key, major problem, a harem BL comedy novel, Chapter 1. The worst commute of my life. Kang Seo-jun had exactly one rule for his career. Never meet the artist before the demo was finished. Artists ruined songs. They walked in with opinions and feelings and vibes, and by the time they left, his clean four-chord progression had somehow become more emotional and 40 seconds longer. So when his manager called him at 7 a.m., an hour, Seo-jun considered a war crime, and said the words emergency placement and meet the group today. Seo-jun's first instinct was to pretend the call had dropped. I heard that fake static noise, Seo-jun. My service is genuinely terrible. You live in Seoul. It's a curse. Ask a monk. 2 hours later, he was standing outside Dream Nova Entertainment's practice building, coffee in hand, staring at a poster of 3 men who all looked like they were contractually required to smolder. Tempo, he vaguely knew the name the way you know a gas station you've never stopped at. Present, unremarkable, probably still there next time you drove past. Except apparently it wouldn't be, unless somebody wrote them a hit in 6 weeks. That somebody was, against all his better judgment, him. The practice room door was propped open with a sneaker. Seo-jun could hear voices before he reached it. One flat and irritated, one loud and theatrical, one cackling in a way that suggested imminent property damage. I am telling you, Hyung, if you throw that water bottle you will regret it. I've regretted things before. I can add one more. Guys, GUIS. Someone catch the... Seo-jun stepped through the doorway just in time to catch, with his own face, a full water bottle traveling at what felt like professional athlete velocity. The room went dead silent. Water dripped off Seo-jun's glasses. He took them off, wiped them on his cardigan with the weary calm of a man who had, in fact, seen worse Mondays, and put them back on to find 3 idols staring at him in matching horror. The tallest one, sharp-jawed, terrifyingly composed even mid-crisis, recovered first. You're not the food delivery. No, Seo-jun agreed. I'm the composer who's supposed to save your careers. Nice to meet you too. A beat. Then the loud one, dramatic eyeliner, dramatic everything, gasped audibly and clasped both hands over his heart like he'd been personally shot. Oh my God, oh my God. We assaulted our own savior. This is a sign. We're cursed. I called it weeks ago. Yuchen, he's fine, it's water, not acid, said the leader, already moving to grab a towel, only to trip over the exact sneaker that had been propping the door and nearly take out a mic stand. The short one, hoodie, half-faded green hair, the energy of a gremlin who had just found a new toy, was filming the entire thing on his phone with an expression of pure, unrepentant delight. Seok-min, the leader said through his teeth, delete that. Absolutely not. This is content. This is our comeback content. Seo-jun looked between the 3 of them, one drowning in mortified apology, one drowning in theatrics, one filming his own group's humiliation for views, and had the distinct, sinking realization that 6 weeks was going to feel like 6 years. I'm Kang Seo-jun, he said, toweling off his glasses again. I write the songs, you perform them, ideally without further assault. The leader straightened so fast he nearly knocked over a second mic stand. Han Jai-ho. I apologize, this isn't usually how we... It's exactly how you usually are, Seok-min said cheerfully, not looking up from his phone. I have footage. I will end you. Lin Yuchen, said the theatrical one, sweeping in with a hand extended and an expression that suggested he'd already decided the towel incident was somehow romantic. Please allow me to personally make this up to you. Coffee, dinner, my undying devotion. Seo-jun shook his hand once briefly, the way you'd handle something that might be sticky. I just need a room to work in and someone to answer questions about your sound. That's it. That's it for now, Yuchen said, entirely too pleased with himself. Seok-min finally looked up from his phone, grinning like he'd already assigned Seo-jun a nickname in his head. Choi Seok-min. Don't worry, Hyung, you'll get used to us. Seo-jun looked at the water still dripping off his sleeve, at Jai-ho quietly panicking into a towel, at Yuchen radiating enough main character energy for a whole drama, at Seok-min already typing what was surely a caption for the video. I sincerely doubt that, he said, and went to go find a practice room that didn't have projectiles in it. He did not, at the time, consider it foreshadowing. Chapter 2. The dorm situation nobody asked me about. The email arrived 4 days later. Subject line, RE, composer housing, approved. Seo-jun read it twice. Then a third time in case the words had rearranged themselves into something that made sense. To maximize creative synergy and songwriting efficiency ahead of the 6-week deadline, Kang Seo-jun will be temporarily relocated to the Tempo dormitory for the duration of the project. He called his manager immediately, Absolutely not. It's already approved. By who? I didn't approve anything. The president. He wants authentic emotional access to the members, his words. I don't need to live with them to write them a song. I need reference tracks and 90 minutes of uninterrupted silence, neither of which exist in a building with those three. Seo-jun. I watched one of them get hit with a water bottle within 4 minutes of meeting the group. I was the water bottle's target, Jae-yoon. I was the bottle's victim. The company's paying you triple for the relocation inconvenience. Seo-jun paused. I'll pack tonight. Which was how, less than a week into the job, Seo-jun found himself standing in the doorway of the Tempo dorm at 9 p.m. with a suitcase, a keyboard bag, and the specific dread of a man walking into a building he already knew was cursed. Jae-ho opened the door before he could knock, looking like he'd been standing there rehearsing. Hello, welcome, I cleared a room. You cleared a room, Seo-jun repeated. It used to be storage. It's mostly a room now. Behind Jae-ho, Yuchen's voice rang out from somewhere deeper in the apartment. Is that him? Is our muse here? I'm not a muse, Seo-jun called back, dragging his suitcase inside. I'm a contractor with a deadline. Yuchen appeared in the hallway wearing what could generously be called loungewear, and what was, more accurately, an outfit no human being wore to actually lounge in, silk, layered, dramatic, even at rest. A contractor with a deadline can also be a muse. These things aren't mutually exclusive. They kind of are. I refuse to accept that. Seok-min's head popped out of a doorway upside down, hanging off what Seo-jun assumed was a bed. Hyung, are you gonna room next to me? Please say yes. I have questions about music theory. Also, I have a PlayStation. Also, I don't sleep much, so if you hear noise at 3 a.m., it's probably just me. That's not reassuring. It wasn't meant to be. Jae-ho led him down the hall to a small room that had, Seo-jun could tell, been very recently and very hastily converted. A desk shoved against the wall still had a sticker on it. The bed looked freshly assembled, and there was a suspicious dent in the wallpaper shaped exactly like a mic stand. Sorry it's small, Jae-ho said, hovering in the doorway like he wasn't sure whether to come in or flee. I know it's not, I mean it's fine, right? It's fine. It's fine, Seo-jun said, setting his keyboard bag down. Good, great. If you need anything, I'm the room across the hall. Not that you'd need anything from me specifically. Anyone would do. I mean, anyone here would help. Obviously. Jae-ho closed his eyes briefly like he could hear himself failing in real time. I'm going to go now. He left. Seo-jun stared at the closed door for a long moment. Is he always like that? He asked, mostly to himself. Yuchen, leaning against the doorframe with the timing of a man who'd clearly been listening the whole time, smiled like he'd won something. Only around people he likes. You should feel special. I feel concerned. Same thing with Jae-ho. Yuchen pushed off the doorframe, sauntering closer with the unhurried confidence of someone used to cameras being on him even when they weren't. For the record, I don't stumble over my words. I say exactly what I mean. Which is that this dorm just got a lot more interesting. Yuchen winked an actual full wink, delivered with zero self-consciousness, and disappeared back down the hall, leaving Seo-jun alone with his suitcase, a squeaky new bed frame, and the sinking sense that professional distance was a concept about to be tested 6 ways from Sunday. From down the hall, Seok-min's voice rang out again. Hyung, come see my PlayStation setup. I built a whole shrine. Seo-jun looked at his unpacked suitcase, then at the closed door, then briefly considered climbing out the window and starting a new life under a different name in a different country. Instead, he sighed and went to go see the shrine. Chapter 3. An incomplete list of things I have learned about my new roommates by the end of week 1. Seo-jun had compiled, mentally, because writing it down felt like admitting defeat, a working profile of the 3 men currently making his life significantly more chaotic than any songwriting job had a right to be. Han Jae-ho, leader. The Ice Prince, according to every fan account Seo-jun had glanced at once out of professional necessity, was, in reality, a man who alphabetized his snacks, apologized to furniture when he bumped into it, and turned visibly, catastrophically flustered any time Seo-jun said something even mildly kind to him. He also could not, under any circumstances, walk past Seo-jun's open door without pausing to check if he needed anything. Water, snacks, silence, a ride somewhere, the removal of a mildly threatening spider, and yet somehow tripped over the same rug in the hallway at least twice a day. You know the rug is there, Seo-jun said, the 3rd time he heard the telltale thud and recover from his room. I do, Jae-ho called back, mortified, from the floor. I'm fine. I didn't ask if you were fine. I'm answering preemptively. Lin Yuchen, main vocalist, walking red carpet even in the kitchen at midnight, had apparently decided somewhere in the last week that Seo-jun's opinion was the single most important metric of success in his life. He performed constantly. He'd break into a note mid-conversation just to watch Seo-jun's face for a reaction, do a full spin for no reason other than the lighting in the hallway happened to hit right, describe every single meal he cooked as though it were a Michelin tasting menu. "Tell me honestly," Yuchen said, sliding a plate of suspiciously elaborate midnight ramen in front of him. "Does this taste like the work of a man who could headline his own drama?" "It tastes like ramen. Elevated ramen. It has the same 3 ingredients as regular ramen. With intention." Seo-jun, and then there was Choi Seok-min, the group's maknae, whose entire personality read as chaos right up until it didn't. He filmed everything, pranked everyone, once put googly eyes on all of Jaiho's protein shakes, and filmed the resulting 3 minutes of betrayal for what he called the algorithm. But every so often, usually late at night when the others had gone to bed, he'd wander into Seo-jun's room, flop dramatically onto the floor, and ask a question so sharp it didn't match the rest of him at all. "You always play the sad part of the melody twice before you write the happy part," he said one night, not looking up from his phone. "Why?" Seo-jun's hands stilled on the keyboard. "You notice that? I notice everything, Hyung. It's my whole thing. Everyone thinks it's the pranks. The pranks are just advertising." Seok-min rolled onto his back, staring at the ceiling. "So why the sad part twice?" Seo-jun considered lying. Then considered that lying to the one member who apparently missed nothing seemed like a poor long-term strategy. "Because if I don't sit in it first, the happy part sounds fake," he said. Seok-min was quiet for a second. Then he grinned, the gremlin returning like a curtain dropping back into place. "Deep. I'm putting that on my story. Please don't. Already posted." By the end of that first week, Seo-jun had also learned something else, something he was significantly less prepared to write down even mentally. That all 3 of them, in wildly different and increasingly inconvenient ways, had started orbiting him like he was the sun. And Seo-jun, professional, deadline-driven, allergic to feelings before noon, had absolutely no idea what to do about the fact that he didn't hate it. Chapter 4. The elevator incident. The building's elevator broke on a Tuesday, which would have been a minor inconvenience if Tempo's dorm hadn't been on the 11th floor, and Seo-jun hadn't been hauling a replacement keyboard stand up from the lobby by himself, because apparently everyone else was in a meeting. A claim he found suspicious given that Jaiho's meeting appeared to be him standing very casually near the mailboxes for no reason. He made it to the 4th floor before Jaiho reappeared, breathless, having clearly abandoned all pretense of mailbox business to jog down 4 flights of stairs. "Let me carry that. I have it. You clearly don't. You've stopped 3 times. I was admiring the stairwell. There's nothing to admire. It's concrete." "Exactly. Very rare aesthetic." Jaiho took the stand out of his hands with the gentle, immovable force of a man who had made a decision and would not be argued out of it. Seo-jun let him, mostly because his arms were, in fact, dying, and partly because watching Jaiho attempt chivalry was becoming one of his favorite unplanned entertainments. They made it to the 7th floor when the elevator, freshly repaired, apparently and completely unannounced, dinged open beside them. "Oh, good," Seo-jun said. "We could have just—" The doors shut the second they stepped in, and the elevator lurched, groaned, and stopped dead between floors 7 and 8 with the specific finality of a machine giving up on life. Silence. It'll start again," Jaiho said, pressing the button with the calm of a man internally screaming. It did not start again. 20 minutes later, having established that the emergency line put them on hold with elevator repair hold music that was, insultingly, in a major key Seo-jun would never have chosen. They were both sitting on the floor of a stalled elevator with a keyboard stand between them like a chaperone. "This is fine," Jaiho said, in the tone of someone reciting an affirmation he did not believe. "It's an elevator, Jaiho, not a life sentence." "I know that, I'm aware. I'm just—" He stopped, jaw tight, staring at the doors like they'd personally betrayed him. "You're claustrophobic," Seo-jun realized. "I'm fine." "You've said fine 4 times in 10 minutes. That's a tell." Jaiho exhaled, long and controlled, the way Seo-jun imagined he'd been trained to breathe before a live broadcast. It's not the space. It's that I can't do anything about it. I like being able to fix things. This isn't fixable, I just have to sit here." Seo-jun studied him for a second, the rigid shoulders, the white-knuckled grip on his own knee, the leader who alphabetized snacks and apologized to furniture reduced to raw nerves by an elevator with a grudge. Okay, Seo-jun said. Then let's do something fixable. Name a song, any song, I'll tell you what's wrong with it. Jae-ho blinked. What? It's a distraction. Pick a song. Encore by. Bridge is too short, key change is lazy, but the chorus hook is genuinely good. They just buried it under too much production. Seo-jun kept going, deadpan and clinical. Dissecting 3 more songs Jae-ho named with the same brutal efficiency, and somewhere around the 4th one, he noticed Jae-ho's shoulders had dropped an inch. His breathing had evened out, and Seo-jun blinked, actually smiling, small and real, not the careful camera-ready version. You really don't hold back, Jae-ho said. Diplomacy is a waste of syllables. I like it. Jae-ho said it plainly, like he hadn't meant to, and then immediately looked like he wanted to fling himself through the elevator doors. I mean professionally, as feedback, I like feedback. You're doing the thing again. What thing? The tripping over your own words thing, except we're sitting down so you're just tripping over sentences instead. Jae-ho put his face in his hands. Please let this elevator start moving. It did, 12 minutes later, with a jolt that sent them both sliding sideways into each other. And for one unplanned, unguarded second, Jae-ho's hand landed over Seo-jun's on the floor and neither of them moved it right away. The doors opened on 8, neither of them said anything about the hand. Both of them thought about it extensively for the rest of the day. Chapter 5. Yuchen bets on the wrong thing, I bet, Yuchen announced over dinner, with the gravity of a man about to change the course of history, that I can get through an entire karaoke song without you correcting my breath control. Seo-jun did not look up from his noodles. You can't. Is that a yes to the bet? It's a statement of fact. Terms, Yuchen said, undeterred, sliding into the seat directly across from him with his elbows on the table like a lawyer building a case. If I win, you tell me one true thing about yourself, something real, not composer brain small talk. And if I win, you won't. Yuchen. Fine, if you win, I'll stop performing for one entire day. Seo-jun considered this. An entire day without Yuchen turning grocery shopping into a stage number sounded, frankly, worth the 45 minutes of second-hand embarrassment karaoke would cost him. Deal? They ended up at a private karaoke room 2 blocks from the dorm, Seok-min tagging along uninvited with the express purpose of filming content. Jae-ho tagging along even more uninvited with the express purpose of making sure nobody did anything he'd have to explain to management later. Yuchen chose, with maximum drama, a ballad 2 full keys outside his comfortable range. Because, he explained, easy songs weren't a real test, and made it exactly 40 seconds before his breath control cracked audibly on a sustained note. Seo-jun, out of pure professional reflex, opened his mouth. You're pushing from your throat, not your... He stopped. Yuchen, mid-note, grinned around the failing note like he'd baited a trap and watched it snap shut perfectly. That's a correction, Seok-min bellowed, delighted, phone already up. Hyung loses on camera, legally binding. It is not legally binding. I have it in writing, Seok-min said, gesturing at his phone screen on which he had somehow already typed and time-stamped the bet witnessed in the Notes app. Jae-ho, arms crossed by the door, looked deeply, personally offended on Seo-jun's behalf. This was a setup. It was a bet, Yuchen corrected primly, setting the mic down and turning to Seo-jun with an expression that had shifted, disarmingly, from smug to something quieter. One true thing, whenever you're ready. No rush. Seo-jun looked at the 3 of them, Seok-min filming with unrepentant glee, Jae-ho hovering like a bodyguard for feelings, Yuchen waiting with a patience that didn't match anything else about him, and found to his own surprise that he actually wanted to answer honestly. I have hearing loss in my left ear, he said. Since I was a kid, everyone assumes it's a disadvantage for someone who writes music for a living. The room went for once quiet. Is it? Yuchen asked, careful in a way Seo-jun hadn't heard from him before. No, Seo-jun said. It means when I mix a track, I have to actually sit with it in silence and rebuild the balance from memory instead of trusting what I hear in the moment. Everyone else guesses, I have to know. Seok-min lowered his phone, for once not filming. He seemed to search for the word. That's kind of badass, actually. It's inconvenient. Both things can be true, Jae-ho said quietly, and something about the way he said it, steady, certain, no stammering at all, made Seo-jun look over at him a beat too long. Yuchen, watching the exchange with the sharp, quiet attention of a man who noticed exactly what was happening and chose, for once, not to make a scene of it, simply reached over and squeezed Seo-jun's shoulder once. Thank you, he said, for the true thing. You cheated to get it. I earned it, Yuchen said, drama fully restored, already reaching for the mic again. Now, round 2. I demand a rematch, and this time you're not allowed to correct me until the second verse. That's not how bets work. It is now. Seo-jun, against every reasonable instinct, laughed an actual, unplanned, undignified laugh, and reached for the songbook to pick the next one himself. Chapter 6. The dating rumor that wasn't mostly. The article went up at 6 a.m., which meant Seo-jun found out about it the way he found out about most catastrophes. From Seok-min screaming from the living room. Mystery man spotted entering Tempo dorm multiple times, insider CLAIMS close relationship with all 3 members. There was a blurry photo attached, Seo-jun, hood up, groceries in hand, taken from what had to be a truly dedicated angle across the street. I look like I'm being smuggled out of a witness protection program, Seo-jun said flatly, staring at his own pixelated face on Seok-min's phone. You look mysterious, Yuchen offered, reading over his shoulder. Handsome even, in a criminal on the run way. That is not a compliment. I meant it as one. Jai-ho, notably, had said nothing since walking in, and was standing very still by the kitchen counter with an expression Seo-jun had learned to recognize as pre-crisis composure, the exact face he made right before he apologized to furniture. This isn't good, Jai-ho finally said. Management's going to want a statement. They're going to ask what our relationship with you is. Tell them I write music, Seo-jun said. Revolutionary concept, I know. It's not that simple. If fans think, Jai-ho stopped himself, jaw tight. Think what? Nothing, it doesn't matter. Jai-ho. I said it doesn't matter, Jai-ho snapped, sharper than Seo-jun had ever heard from him, and then immediately looked horrified at himself. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I'm going to go call management. He left. The apartment felt several degrees colder in his wake. Yuchen and Seok-min exchanged a look Seo-jun couldn't fully read. He's not actually mad at you, Yuchen said carefully. He's mad that there's a version of this where he has to publicly deny something he doesn't actually want to deny. Seo-jun's stomach did something complicated. That's not, it's exactly that, Seok-min said, unusually gentle for once, setting his phone face down on the counter like even he understood this wasn't content material. He likes you, Hyung, obviously. He stopped, glanced at Yuchen, and some silent negotiation passed between them. We all kind of do. The kitchen was very quiet. That's not, I'm the composer, Seo-jun said, aware of how weak it sounded even as it left his mouth. I'm here for 6 weeks, I have a deadline. We know, Yuchen said. Doesn't stop the feeling, believe me, we've tried. You've tried? Extensively, Seok-min said. There was a whole group chat about it, very embarrassing. Jai-ho sent a bullet point list of reasons it was unprofessional and inadvisable, and then immediately unsent it, and then resent it 3 minutes later because he changed his mind halfway through unsending it. Seo-jun put his face in his hands. I need all 3 of you to understand that I have written exactly 1.5 verses of your comeback song in 2 weeks, and this, whatever this is not helping my deadline. Noted, Yuchen said, entirely unbothered. For what it's worth, the statement management's going to release will say something boring and professional. Nobody's outing anyone's feelings to a tabloid. We're not idiots, mostly. Speak for yourself, Seok-min said. I nearly posted a video captioned, guess who's living with you's 3 separate times. Please don't ever tell me that again. Noted, Seok-min echoed cheerfully and picked his phone back up, the moment of unguarded honesty folding neatly back into chaos, though not before he added quieter, almost too quiet to catch. For what it's worth, Hyung, you don't have to decide anything right now. Just don't run, okay? We won't be weird about it, probably. Seo-jun looked between the 2 of them, then down the hall where Jai-ho's voice was audible, low and stiff, on a call with management, apologizing for something that wasn't even his fault. He thought, not for the first time, that this job had stopped resembling anything in his contract weeks ago. Chapter 7. 3 weeks left and 0 chorus. The wall of Seo-jun's makeshift studio room had become, over 3 weeks, a graveyard of discarded lyric sheets, each one crossed out with increasing violence. He had a verse. He had a bridge, technically, though it was really just a placeholder melody hummed into his phone at 2 a.m. and never revisited. He did not have a chorus, and a song without a chorus was, professionally speaking, not a song at all. I don't understand you, he muttered at the keyboard, which did not respond, because it was a keyboard. The problem, if he was being honest with himself, which he tried very hard not to be on principle, wasn't the melody. The problem was that every hook he wrote sounded like something written by a man observing a boy group from a safe, professional distance. And Seo-jun had not had a safe, professional distance from these three specific human disasters in nearly a month. There was a knock, Jai-ho predictably, since Jai-ho was the only one who still knocked. "You've been in here for 6 hours, working. You've played the same 8 bars for the last 40 minutes. I've been listening from the hallway. That's concerning on multiple levels." Jai-ho stepped in anyway, dropping onto the edge of the bed with the careful posture of someone perpetually unsure if he was allowed to sit down in this specific room. "Tell me what's wrong, musically. I mean it not as a bandmate, professionally." Seo-jun almost smiled at the back pedal. "The chorus needs to feel like relief, like something finally breaking open after everything that came before it, and every version I write feels controlled, careful, it doesn't break open, it just sits there correctly." "That sounds," Jai-ho said slowly, "exactly like me." "I noticed." Jai-ho huffed something that wasn't quite a laugh. "I've spent 10 years being told to be controlled, on stage, in interviews, in everything. I don't actually know what breaking open sounds like anymore." Seo-jun turned fully to face him. "Do you want to know a secret? Neither do I. I've never written a song about wanting something I was scared to actually want. I've written 100 songs about other people's feelings. I don't know how to write my own." The room went quiet in that particular way it did whenever one of them said something true by accident. "What are you scared of wanting?" Jai-ho asked, voice low. Seo-jun looked at him for a long moment, at the leader who tripped over rugs and apologized to furniture and had, without asking permission from anyone including himself, become someone Seo-jun looked forward to seeing cross the hallway every single day. "You know exactly what," Seo-jun said, quieter than he meant to. Jai-ho didn't move for a second. Then, slowly, like testing ice, he reached over and covered Seo-jun's hand on the keyboard, the same gesture from the elevator, deliberate this time, not an accident of physics. "For what it's worth," Jai-ho said, "I think that's what your chorus is missing, not control, the thing underneath it." Seo-jun looked down at their hands, then back up. "That's dangerously insightful for a man who apologizes to furniture." "I contain multitudes." Seo-jun huffed out something that was almost a laugh, turned back to the keyboard with Jai-ho's hand still loosely over his, and played 4 notes he'd never once tried before, unguarded. A little too raw, absolutely nothing like anything he'd written in years. It was unmistakably the beginning of a chorus. Chapter 8. The Group Chat Incident. The group chat, titled against Seo-jun's explicit objections, Operation Scare the Composer, had exactly 4 members. Jai-ho, Yuchen, Seok-min, and due to what Seok-min called an unfortunate but hilarious accident, Seo-jun himself, added by mistake at 1 a.m. and never removed because nobody had the nerve to be the one to kick him out. Which was how Seo-jun found himself, 2 days after the chorus breakthrough, staring at his phone at 11 p.m. reading a message thread he was very much not supposed to be part of. "Yuchen, okay, so the chorus thing. Did he tell either of you what happened in there, or Seok-min? He came out looking like a man who'd seen God." Also, Jai-ho was blushing for like an hour straight. "Ask him, Jai-ho." "I was not blushing." Seok-min, "Brother, I have a photo." Jai-ho, "Delete it." Yuchen, "Wait, send the photo first, then delete it. For archival purposes." Seok-min, "Image attached." Jai-ho, "I'm leaving this chat." Yuchen, "You can't, admin privileges are locked." Seok-min set it up as a joke, and now none of us can figure out how to undo it. Seok-min, "Skill issue." Yuchen, "Anyway, real talk. Are we doing this or not? The 3 of us liking the same guy thing? Because I'd like to point out none of us have actually said it to him, and at some point, Operation Don't Scare the Composer is going to end with us the ones getting scared off by our own cowardice. Jai-ho, "It's complicated. He has a deadline. We have a comeback. This isn't the time." Seok-min, "Hyung, there is never going to be the time. There's just time. We're literally already living with him. The ship has extremely sailed." Yuchen, "Seok-min is annoyingly right." Seok-min, "Thank you, Yuchen. I still think we should just all be honest, together, at the same time. Instead of this competitive but also secretive thing we've been doing where we all individually panic." Jai-ho, "Together, all 3 of us, at once." Seok-min, "Why not? It's not like we're gonna fight over him. That would be insane. We're grown adults in a group together who see each other shirtless in the dorm bathroom on a weekly basis. We can share a crush." Yuchen, "Share a crush is certainly a way to phrase it." Seo-jun, phone in hand, sitting alone in his room with his heart doing something entirely unprofessional, typed and deleted 4 different responses before finally settling on the truth. "Seo-jun, I can see this entire conversation. I have been in this chat since 1 a.m. 3 days ago. Nobody has removed me." The chat went for a solid 30 seconds completely silent. Seok-min, "Oh no, Yuchen. Oh no, Jai-ho, I am going to actually die. Seo-jun, for the record, I'm not scared off. I'm mostly annoyed you all had a group chat meeting about your feelings for me and didn't invite me to weigh in on my own crush situation. There was another long pause. Seok-min, wait Yuchen, wait, Jai-ho, you're what Seo-jun, you heard me, I'm not typing it twice. I have a chorus to finish. He put the phone face down, heart pounding, and did not, in fact, get a single note of the chorus finished that night, because 3 separate sets of footsteps arrived at his door within the next 4 minutes, all trying and failing to look casual about it. Chapter 9, a very unprofessional negotiation. So, Yuchen said, the first to recover speech, leaning against Seo-jun's doorframe with Jai-ho and Seok-min crowded awkwardly behind him like backup dancers who hadn't rehearsed the formation. You were saying. About a crush situation. I said too much. You said exactly enough, Seok-min corrected, squeezing into the room past Yuchen with zero regard for personal space. Please elaborate. For science? Seo-jun closed his laptop, resigned. There was, he understood now, no version of this deadline that didn't involve having this conversation. I don't know how to do this with 3 people. I've never done it with 1 person successfully. Neither have we, Jai-ho admitted, finally stepping fully into the room, arms crossed like he needed the barrier. The 3 of us have never, we've talked about it, obviously, but actually doing it. It's not like we're strangers to each other, Yuchen added. We've lived together for 6 years. If this is going to happen, it happens with all of us knowing exactly what it is. No secrets, no competition. Group rule, Seok-min said solemnly, holding up a hand like he was swearing an oath. No sabotage. No accidentally scheduling your alone time with Hyung during someone else's shift. Yuchen, I'm looking at you. That happened 1 time. It happened 4 times and I have a spreadsheet. You have a spreadsheet of my crimes? I have a spreadsheet of everyone's crimes, it's very organized. Ask me about the color coding system later. Seo-jun, despite everything, laughed the real, undignified kind, and something in the room loosened at the sound of it. 3 sets of shoulders dropping in unison, like they'd all been waiting for permission. I need you to understand, Seo-jun said once he'd recovered, that I am extremely bad at this. I write feelings into songs because it's easier than saying them out loud. I have never once said I like you to a person's actual face without a melody attached. Then say it with a melody, Jai-ho said, quiet and sure. We'll wait. That's not, I can't just. You have 3 weeks left on the chorus deadline, Yuchen pointed out, entirely too pleased with himself. Consider this creative inspiration. You're using my deadline against me. I'm using it for you, Yuchen said. Write us the truth, Seo-jun, we've been very patient. Comparatively. Seok-min flopped dramatically onto the end of the bed, entirely too comfortable for someone in the middle of a 3-way emotional confrontation. For what it's worth, Hyung, nobody's asking you to pick right now, or maybe ever. We talked about that too in the chat you were secretly reading. I wasn't secretly reading it, I was accidentally included and too curious to leave. Same thing, Seok-min said. Point is, we're not asking you to choose between us like it's some kind of competition show. We just want to actually be honest instead of doing this weird triangle of silence thing where everyone's pining separately in the same apartment. Seo-jun looked at the 3 of them, Jai-ho steady and quietly certain, Yuchen dramatic but unmistakably sincere underneath it, Seok-min blunt in a way that cut straight through every deflection Seo-jun had left, and felt, for the first time in weeks, something in his chest unclench. Fine, he said, no competition, no spreadsheets of crimes going forward, Seok-min, no promises. And I finished this chorus with all 3 of you as material, apparently whether I like it or not. Do you like it or not? Yuchen asked, leaning in with a grin that dared him to lie. Seo-jun looked at all 3 of them, ridiculous and chaotic, and somehow impossibly exactly what he hadn't known he was missing. I like it, he admitted. Against every professional instinct I own. I like it. Chapter 10. The sabotage nobody saw coming 2 weeks before the deadline, disaster arrived in a form nobody in the apartment had predicted. A rival composer, hired quietly by a nervous Dreamnova executive as a backup option. Submitted a competing demo without telling anyone. And the news reached Seo-jun via a very unfortunate accidental forward from an assistant who meant to send it to someone else entirely. They hired a backup. Jai-ho's voice climbed an octave Seo-jun had never heard from him. Without telling us, without telling him? It's fine, Seo-jun said, though his jaw was tight. It's not fine, Yuchen said, already pacing, main character energy fully weaponized into fury on Seo-jun's behalf. You've been working yourself into the ground for a month. They don't get to just hedge their bets behind your back. Seok-min, uncharacteristically quiet, was staring at his phone with narrowed eyes. I have the demo, he said. The exec's assistant left it in a shared folder by accident. Want to hear the competition? Absolutely not, Jai-ho said at the same moment Yuchen said, absolutely, play it right now. They played it right now. It was, Seo-jun had to admit, competent. Clean, radio-friendly, exactly the kind of song a nervous executive would greenlight out of pure risk aversion. It was also unmistakably soulless, a chorus that hit all the right technical marks and none of the actual ones. It's fine, Seo-jun said again, more to himself this time, staring at the waveform on Seok-min's screen. It's a good song, it's not our song. Our song, Yuchen repeated, something in his voice catching on the word. You know what I mean. I know exactly what you mean, Yuchen said, quieter now, and something passed between them that didn't need further explanation. Jai-ho was already moving, phone to his ear, voice sharpened into the kind of leadership authority Seo-jun rarely got to see outside of stage footage. I'm calling the exec directly. We didn't ask for a backup. We asked for time, and we have a song that's actually finished, and I want a meeting before anyone makes a decision based on the safer option instead of the right one. You're going to fight for this? Seo-jun asked. Jai-ho lowered the phone briefly, meeting his eyes with a steadiness that made Seo-jun's chest tighten. I've spent 10 years choosing the safe, controlled option because I was told it was smarter. I'm done doing that. This time I'm choosing the one that actually breaks open. He put the phone back to his ear and walked off to argue with an executive twice his seniority with the confidence of a man who had, somewhere in the last month, remembered what he actually wanted. Yuchen turned to Seo-jun, arms crossed, expression fierce in a way that had nothing to do with performance. Finish the chorus. Tonight, whatever it takes. I don't care if we have to stay up till sunrise. This backup demo is not winning because some exec got nervous. I need one more line, Seo-jun admitted. I've had it stuck for days. Seok-min, still staring at his phone, spoke without looking up, quiet and certain in a way that cut through all the noise around him. Right about tonight, Hayoung. Right about the part where we all showed up for you instead of just wanting something from you. That's the line you're missing. I'd bet my whole spreadsheet on it. Seo-jun stared at him for a long second. Then he grabbed his notebook off the desk, and for the first time in 2 weeks, the last line of the chorus arrived whole, unforced, exactly right. Chapter 11. The comeback stage, the showcase, was in 9 days, which meant the final week became a blur of vocal recording, choreography rehearsals, and Seo-jun locked in the studio at increasingly unreasonable hours, finalizing a mix he was, for once, entirely unashamed of. The title track was called Static to Signal, a title Seok-min had suggested half-jokingly, referencing Seo-jun's hearing before all four of them realized, in the same beat of silence, that it fit too well not to keep. The comeback stage, when it finally arrived, was chaos in the best possible way. Yuchen's vocal cracked with genuine emotion instead of technical perfection on the bridge and somehow made it better. Jai-ho, mid-choreography, missed a step for the first time in his professional career, recovered in half a beat, and grinned, an actual, unguarded, camera-be-damned grin, directly at the side stage where Seo-jun was standing with his heart in his throat. Seok-min, during the final chorus, broke formation just slightly to point directly at the crowd's phone cameras and mouth something that later, when Seo-jun watched the fancam footage, turned out to be, "This one's for our composer." The song ended. The crowd noise hit like a wave. Backstage, the second the three of them cleared the curtain, Yuchen didn't even bother catching his breath before crossing the room straight to Seo-jun, sweat-soaked and glowing, and kissing him, quick, breathless, entirely unplanned, right there in front of half the production crew. "Yuchen," Seo-jun started, face going instantly red. I say exactly what I mean," Yuchen said, grinning. "I meant that." Jai-ho arrived a half-second later, more careful, cupping Seo-jun's face with both hands like he was still checking if this was allowed before kissing him properly, slow and certain, nothing like the stammering mess who'd tripped over rugs a month ago. "You wrote us a song that broke open," Jai-ho murmured against his mouth. "I'm returning the favor." Seok-min, last but entirely unbothered by the weight, simply grabbed Seo-jun by the collar of his shirt with zero ceremony and kissed him with the same unrepentant confidence he did everything else, pulling back with a grin. "For the record, I already made a highlight reel. It's going up the second we're off stage. Please don't post that. Already scheduled." Seo-jun, standing backstage with kiss-swollen lips, 3 sets of hands still not quite letting go of him, and an entire stadium still chanting the chorus he'd written half in denial and half in love, thought that this was, without question, the single worst professional decision of his career. He had never once been happier about breaking a rule. Chapter 12. 6 weeks later, epilogue, the dorm's spare room officially stopped being temporary composer housing sometime around week 7, when Seo-jun's manager called to ask when he'd be returning his company laptop, and Seo-jun, without thinking, said, "Why would I need to leave?" There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "You live there now?" "I live here now," Seo-jun confirmed, mildly surprised by his own certainty. Tempo's comeback outsold their debut by a margin the company hadn't seen in years, which meant Seo-jun's loan-out arrangement quietly, permanently became in-house composer, Tempo exclusive, a title change nobody objected to, least of all him. Domestic life, it turned out, had not made any of them less ridiculous. Jai-ho still tripped over the same rug at least once a week, though he'd started blaming it, unconvincingly, on structural issues with the building. Yuchen still performed the results of every grocery run like it deserved an award, and had recently started composing increasingly elaborate and increasingly bad songs about Seo-jun specifically, all of which he insisted on debuting live, at full volume during breakfast. Seok-min's spreadsheet of crimes had alarmingly expanded into a full shared document with tabs, one of which was labeled simply receipts, and which Seo-jun had learned never, ever to open unsupervised. "I still don't understand how this is my life," Seo-jun said one night, sprawled on the living room floor with his head in Jai-ho's lap. Yuchen's legs tangled with his, Seok-min upside down off the couch arm, filming absolutely none of this for once, just existing in it. "You wrote a song about wanting something you were scared to want," Jai-ho said, fingers idle in his hair. "Turns out that's a good way to end up with exactly what you wrote about. That's disgustingly poetic for a man who apologizes to furniture. I've been practicing. On the furniture or on me?" "Both," Jai-ho admitted, and Yuchen laughed loud enough that Seok-min startled off the couch entirely, which somehow, inevitably, ended in all 4 of them in a pile on the floor, laughing too hard to get up, exactly as loud and chaotic and completely uncomposed as the day Seo-jun had first walked through their door and gotten hit in the face with a water bottle. He wouldn't, he thought, watching all 3 of them argue over whose turn it was to order dinner, have written it any other way. The end.